be your year. Make an old man proud of you. Forget about the tears.
Hey everybody! Welcome to another MoGraph podcast. I am your host, Matt Milstead. Joining me this week, I'm super excited to have him here, the After Effects aficionado expertise guru. I don't like saying guru because then that reminds everyone of Blender Guru. Mr. Jake Bartlett, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you here. In the meantime, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Otoy. You know them, you love them. They're the makers of Octane Render and the Render Network. They are our universal sponsor. They're sponsoring all things podcast and website related, and we're super excited to have them on board. With Octane, you can create super photorealistic renders incredibly fast, and for those renders that need the extra little push of power, the Render Network has you covered. Render Network can allows you to render your Octane, Redshift, and Blender cycles frames in a fraction of the time and a fraction of the cost of other cloud rendering services. And don't forget the Render Royale. This month's theme is underway. The theme this month is retro sci-fi. I'm really excited about this one. I think this Thursday on the live stream we're gonna go into I think we're gonna make our own render, our own retro sci-fi. And now I may submit it, but I will take myself out of the running since I'm actually a judge. But it'll be fun. Yeah, this past week on the live stream, we did mess around with C40 particles, and I think so for those who watched, we have been consistently crashing Cinema 4D at exactly 9 o'clock, which is about the time in which I stop streaming. So it's been pretty consistent the past 2 weeks that Cinema has crashed at exactly 9 o'clock. I promise I'm not doing that on purpose. But yeah, so I had an idea. I was talking to some of the guys at work, and I was like, hey, what if I just like did multiple different like software, and I was like, okay, we're gonna start in this one, and then as soon as it crashes we move to the next one, and then when that crashes we move to the next one and see which one will go the longest. They were joking around and saying that Houdini will not officially crash, it will just hang forever. So
Right.
It's like, okay, well maybe I'll just be stuck in Houdini talking for an hour. Anyway, those were our Thursday. Shout out to our sponsor Otoy, thank you again, and we're excited to have you here, Jake. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. So glad to be here.
Yeah, excited. We've hung out a few times. I think we officially met at Camp MoGraph Denver, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was great to have you there. You're a Denver native, so it's just a hop,
Yeah,
skip,
well,
and jump for you, right?
Can you
Well,
call
not
me a
native, sorry.
I don't know. I moved here in 2017, beginning 2017.
Okay.
But I'm from Michigan originally.
Okay, but you were in LA before that, right?
I was.
What-
So when I graduated from college in 2010, I had gone to a one-semester film program in LA, and so, I mean, even just going into college as a freshman, I knew I wanted to do video editing. But as I progressed, I discovered, motion graphics. Actually, even before college, I had discovered Video Copilot, and so I knew how to do lightsabers and things in After Effects, some very basic stuff. But by the end of college, I knew I wanted to do video editing or motion design, and I just had a general blanket digital media degree. So I was completely self-taught in After Effects, but I got a good foundation in photography, a little bit of cinematography. And like I said, I went to a one-semester film program in LA. So that's what got me exposed to what that world would be like, which was a huge culture shock for me from growing up in Michigan my whole life. But I knew, that's where I want to be. And my oldest brother is 7 years older than me, and he had been in LA since he had graduated. So I had, at least that anchor in LA, and my wife and I, we got engaged our last year of college, and we got married right after graduation and moved straight to LA.
Nice.
And that's how it all started. I was very fortunate to just have known somebody who knew somebody who needed an After Effects guy.
That always seems to be the way it is in LA.
Yep.
Yeah, I was always amazed. I worked at a little tiny post-production house like through college and then a while after college as well. And
Yeah.
you'd get these people fresh out of college who are like, I'm just moving to LA. And I'm like, why? How are you just, it's so expensive. How are you
Yeah.
going to survive? And it's like,
Yeah.
I was always amazed that they're just like, oh yeah, I found a job. And it's like, someone knew someone who knew someone.
Yep.
You know, I don't know if that's the way it is anymore in LA. I feel I've heard like the industry's struggling a bit out there. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been out there since 2017, and I haven't been working in that industry really since like 2014. But it was like networking was such a huge thing. It wasn't something that I was very skilled in, but just the fact that I had so many friends through that film program was
Yeah.
all I needed. Because several of them got jobs in studios or, freelancing for places, and they just, like I said, it was a sound guy interning for a sound designer at a motion or at a production studio, and they just needed a After Effects guy, and I started making more money than I thought was ever humanly possible coming
That's
fresh
cool.
out of college. So
Yeah.
I was like, I was like hoping for $100 a day because I was
Uh-huh.
making $100 a week. In college.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I get $100 a day, and the guy, so that's a funny story. The sound designer, who I did not know, blindly vouched for me. And before I went in to interview, which wasn't really an interview, he said, "What's your day rate?" And I was like, "Well, I've never had one. I hope I can get $100 a day." And he said, "Tell him your rate is $400 a day."
Uh-huh.
I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
So they negotiated down to 350, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, "Awesome."
Yeah.
And I had that for almost 5 years.
Wow, that's
and no
funny.
pay increase or anything. I was technically freelance the whole time, but
Uh-huh.
I mean, straight out of college, no complaints there.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. So, how long were you in LA before you moved to Denver?
Almost 7 years. So it was at
Okay.
the very end of 2016 that we moved. And my wife's whole family lives about 2 hours south of here. So we just
Oh,
moved in
okay.
with them while we were looking for a home.
Nice.
We wanted to be closer to family. My family's still in Michigan.
Especially if you're
I
having
didn't-
kids and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
it's
So
super
we
convenient.
had
yeah.
our son. He had just turned 1 when we moved, and we were just tired of not having family out there.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was freelancing, so I had nothing like really holding me there, other than our friends. We really, obviously, that sucked moving away from friends, but
Yeah.
and my brother and his wife. But we moved to Denver. Ended up finding a house at the very beginning of 2017 on a south suburb of Denver, and we've been here ever since.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you did a 1 semester film
Yeah.
course? That's interesting because normally you hear people, oh, I'm going to LA, I'm going to go to film school. But it's like, no, I
Right.
did a 1 semester. It's like,
Yeah, it was very brief, but very eye-opening. So I went to a very small Christian school in Northwest Arkansas,
Uh-huh.
and we had just like I said, a general digital media degree.
Okay.
And there were several
That was
different.
for college?
That was college.
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
So my major was digital media. My minor was graphic design.
That's awesome.
So they had a really good art program, but cinema was brand new. It was only a year or two old when I was coming into that school. But there was this program called Best Semester where you could study abroad, which LA, I mean,
It's abroad.
from Northwest Arkansas.
I
it's
was going to
abroad.
say for Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, there were 2 programs in the U.S. That one was the film program, and then there was one for music at, the name is escaping me. It's in like the East Coast. Is Martha's Vineyard? Is that a music thing?
I don't know. Martha's
Oh
Vineyard
my gosh,
is
I
a
might be
place.
completely
It's
saying
an
the wrong thing.
island.
But there was a music program in the U.S. Everything else was actually abroad, and it was
Uh-huh.
studying very specific. But it was called Best Semester. So it
Okay.
was like a quick 1 semester, get out of your comfort zone in a new place kind of
That's
thing.
cool. I like that.
Yeah, it worked really
Did you
well for me.
still
Like I
have
said,
to
I made
pay
a
for
ton of
that
friends.
in college? It's like
I got a
they're
scholarship.
see that
but yeah.
that's a racket. It's like you got to pay for that credit, and then you got to go
Yeah.
somewhere else and study and pay
Yeah.
for that.
Right. Yep. Yeah. But it was a really good experience. I'm glad that I did it. For nothing else, one of the things we had to do was have a role on a production on set. Like I said, I wanted to be an editor, so I got to edit that short film, but everybody had a role in production and everybody had a role in post-production. And I was like, well, I don't really know what I'd want to do on set. And so they had me be the script supervisor.
Uh-huh.
So I literally had to make sure every line was said,
Yeah.
take notes of cameras and stuff, and do the clapperboard and thing. And if nothing else, that just taught me I want nothing to do with production. I want to stay so far away from it. I did not enjoy that experience at all. Like early call times and just bright, heavy equipment. I
Yeah.
mean, I was just like, this is
Especially
not
back
my
then when
speed.
you weren't using LED lights and it was all
Right.
hot and yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
heavy, hot equipment, lots of I mean, and we're all college students. Nobody
Yeah.
knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it was a really for nothing else. Like I said, it told me I don't want to do production, and I got exposed to what life in LA is like.
Yeah.
Because I'm driving down highways with 6 lanes across, and crazy drivers coming from growing up in
Yeah.
kind of not middle of nowhere Michigan, but 2 lanes.
Yeah, yeah, for
You
sure.
know, so it was really good exposure for me.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, and I feel like you can tell this in your work, the addition of the graphic design along with, digital media or whatever, like
Yeah.
you can I feel like you can tell that in your work because
Well, thank you.
it's very well designed, as well as the motion is beautiful and put together and stuff like that, And I've always
Thanks.
said the best motion designers have a graphic design background.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's half of motion design. It's right there in the name. Design it's a very important concept, and I think it's more approachable because you're not having to think over time. You can just focus on a composition.
Yeah.
And pretty early on, I got really obsessed with typography. I just really enjoyed learning about type and fonts. I actually had a typography class that was part of my minor requirement, and I geeked out on that so much.
Yeah.
Like learning about discovering things like a ligature is literally a character that's designed with 2 letters next to each other that might have overlapped otherwise. That blew my mind, and I grabbed like the school newspaper. I was like, there's a ligature that's been there this whole time. I never knew it. Like, I loved type. And so yeah, figuring out layouts with typography, choosing fonts, looking back at my work then, it's like, wow, I picked the most horrendous fonts.
Right.
But but yeah, I've always enjoyed composition, making stuff look nice. And then my wife majored in graphic design.
Oh,
So
that's nice.
I always have her to be like, look at this. What
Yeah.
should I change about it? Like, what do you think of this? She's always been that person for me. So,
That's fun.
yeah.
How does that work with 2 artists being married to each other?
Yeah, everybody always asks that. We are extremely agreeable with each other. We're almost always on the same page. I'm very receptive to her critique and suggestions. Like I would much rather her point stuff out and me just be like, "Yep, you're right," and then change it and move on.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like the most fun part for me is teaching. Like I want to make the content. I almost put like all of my energy into that, and then the branding of like a class or a thumbnail on a YouTube video is like the afterthought. And it's like I need to put more time into that. But having her to be able to just say, change this, is actually really freeing for me.
That's really
So,
nice. Yeah, that's
yeah.
super nice. That's so interesting. Like, because my wife's a teacher, she's a librarian. It's like our worlds are so incredibly different, And it's like that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah. So most of the stuff you transitioned from, post-production, editing, After Effects into now an educational background doing, I believe you had a course for School of Motion, or you were just
Yep,
freelance.
I've got 3 there.
3 there? Jeez. Okay. And then you've also got your own courses. Is that correct?
Yep.
So this
Yep.
is, you have transitioned full time into just education.
Yeah, it's been kind of a long transition to this point, but after almost 5 years of working at that production company in LA, that was the only real job I ever had.
Interesting.
I taught my first Skillshare class the year before I left, from encouragement from my wife, who knew that I'd be interested in teaching, and I just never had the opportunity. But I taught that class, and I found pretty good success with it. But it was actually on animating type, because that's what I felt like. I'm not a teacher, like I don't have a master's or anything, so what am I going to teach? And I was like, well, if there's one thing I know how to do, it's animating text in After Effects, because that's what I was basically doing all day, every day at my job.
Right.
after a year of that, I decided I wanted to go freelance because I was also freelancing on nights and weekends, just through connections that I had at my job of producers coming in and out. And I was like, well, you know what? I kind of feel like I'd rather work for myself than my boss. So I left, and literally 20 minutes after I told my boss I was leaving, Skillshare emailed me and said, hey, we're starting this thing called the Top Teachers Group. Would you consider making another course, and we'll help you
That's
any way that
awesome.
we can? And I was like, well, that's pretty good affirmation
Yeah,
that I'm making the
right?
right decision here. So I taught my second class, and in like a week, I had doubled my Skillshare following, which at that
Wow.
time was only like 1,000, but still, it
Yeah.
literally doubled in like a week. And I was like, okay, well, maybe that could be something.
How long ago was
Um,
this, if I can interrupt real
that
quick?
was so my first class was posted end of 2014.
Okay.
Second one was near the end of 2015.
Okay.
So yeah, when I saw that boost happened, I was definitely relying on freelance work for my income at that point. But I saw that boost. I was like, well, maybe I should put some more effort into this. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just started putting out a course every couple months on Skillshare. And at that time, it was very much just make whatever you want. It was
Yeah.
basically YouTube that people had to pay for.
Yeah.
And the payment model was very different. Like I was getting royalties based on how many people just enrolled in the course.
Uh-huh.
Eventually, it became you get paid based on how many minutes of content were viewed from you, which actually ended up being really great for me because
Is
my
it?
classes ended up being longer than most. Like
Okay.
that's one thing about me is that I can hit record and then just explain everything for like 4 hours.
That's
And
why I
so,
knew I didn't have to prepare this show at all.
yes, yes, exactly. I can just keep going, man. Especially when I'm teaching.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it ended up being a really beneficial thing for me. Um, but anyway, I over time the freelance to Skillshare ratio was kind of doing this, and I was like, well, I really like teaching, so maybe I'll just start saying no to more clients, keep the
Mm-hmm.
ones that I like, and just keep making Skillshare classes. And eventually, I think it was like 2017 was when Joey Kornman of School of Motion, he asked me to make a course, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where Explainer Camp came in. That was right after I moved to Denver, and over like 8 months, I want to say, we produced that course,
Yeah.
which is a great story too, by the way. He asked me, what do I want to teach? And I said, well, I would love to do like a beginner's After Effects course. And he
Yeah.
said, oh, I just gave that to Noel Honig.
Uh-huh.
Um, what can we do instead? And he's like, what about like explainer videos? And I was like, sure, yeah, I can do a course on explainer videos. And he says, well, actually, let's make it the business of motion design and wrap it in an explainer video. It's like, oh, okay. I don't know anything about
I was gonna say.
that. And he's like, no, 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 it's
Business of
fine. I'll
MoGraph.
coach you through the
Put
whole
stuff
thing.
on Skillshare, make money, profit.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So the all the client work that I ever did was always through an agency. So I
Yeah.
was working with a producer and they were working with a client. I never was direct to client, and that's what Explainer Camp teaches is how to handle directly with a client, how to make a bid sheet, how to put together a calendar,
Interesting.
how to have a phone call, like everything.
Yeah.
So that was like the peak of imposter syndrome for me
Sure.
because I was teaching a course for School of Motion
Uh-huh.
and feeling like I had no idea what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And Joey was coaching me through the whole thing, but it ended up being a great experience. People love that class. I'm so happy with
Yeah.
how the response to that has been. But yeah, the education to freelance ratio just continued to tip over the years, and I had taught another course for them called Photoshop and Illustrator Unleashed. And then eventually, a couple years ago, I did After Effects for Editors, which was a much more brief course, but it was very specific, like designed for people editing in Premiere, giving them the basics of After Effects and how to make stuff there.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then I guess the most recent development is that it was like at the end of 2023, I finally made the decision to make a course on my own website and try and sell it myself. The benefit of Skillshare is that I can upload to it just like YouTube, and they handle all of the marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was basically hands off, other than answering student questions and like giving them thumbs ups when they
Yeah.
posted projects. So I made the leap into selling my own courses, kind of rebranded myself from having a portfolio site to being like Jake in Motion courses. and I've been doing that since let's see, I guess it was like November 2024, I want to say, or was it? Yeah, right around Black Friday-ish times when I posted my first course, and I've launched 2 more since then.
Awesome.
And in the midst of all of this, I also started a YouTube channel back in 2017, I want to say.
Nice. I see the YouTube plaque behind you.
Yeah, that's been really fun. So Matt from Mount Mograph is actually the
Yeah.
one who encouraged me to start a YouTube channel because
He's Denver as well, right?
yes, he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of great MoGraph people here in Denver. But yeah, I had built my audience primarily on Skillshare,
Yeah.
and that's not a great place to say whatever you want. I remember advertising my School of Motion course when I made it on Skillshare, and I got a friendly email from them basically saying, "Don't do that again."
Interesting.
Because it was essentially
Yeah.
competition for them.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. So he encouraged me, you should make a YouTube video or a YouTube channel because you can post whatever you want there. You can advertise anything that you make. And I'm glad that he encouraged me to do that because that's between my own site and courses and YouTube, that's pretty much what I'm doing full time now.
Yeah. Alyssa in the chat said, I don't know if there are questions. Yeah. What's the most important skill that you've learned that a teacher has to have? Your teaching style is so easy to follow.
I appreciate that. So yeah, I think one thing that I've always tried to do, even from the very first Skillshare class that I made, is just put myself in the shoes of someone who has no idea what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably why I talk so much, is because I'm always thinking, what if they don't know what this is? And you know, over years of doing this, I've been able to switch to okay, this video is going to be for more of an advanced audience. I don't have to call out every single keyboard shortcut or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I always try to picture who is the target viewer of this video, and I try and teach from that perspective. And the other, you know, tip that I've been giving everyone is that you need to just start. Just like with anything, you just start doing it and you're gonna feel awkward. It's like if I go back and watch my first Skillshare course, it is so embarrassing to me at this point. Like
you
I
should
can't
hear
even
our
watch
first
it.
podcast.
Yeah,
I'm like whispering the whole time. It's
yeah.
almost ASMR because I'm scared of waking up my kid.
Yes, it's the same for everyone, but it's just something that you get used to. It is like anything else; it takes practice.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that I have a natural ability to explain things in a way that people can understand, and that's why my wife encouraged me to do it in the first place.
Yeah.
But what I discovered was just how much I loved that. You know, I really enjoyed being a motion designer and freelancing and doing work and getting stuff. You know, anytime, it only happened a handful of times, but anytime that my name was in the credits that got into a movie or a TV show, it was like, that was awesome. Like, it was a really great experience. Over time, I realized I much more enjoy being able to just make original content that I'm fully in control of and work on my own schedule. And, you know, I've been at home my entire children's lives.
That's
so like
awesome.
that's just a huge win in my opinion. So
I will say, you know, talking about going into explanation and stuff like that on your YouTube videos or how you're teaching, there's a certain lesson you have to learn when you're doing education for online. Like, if you go and watch a lot of these like really poorly recorded YouTube videos and stuff where they're like, okay, now we're going to click on this and now we're going to click on this. It's just an order of operations. Yes. And it doesn't necessarily teach you the skills or the why of why you are doing those particular things.
That's a great point. Yeah, that is another thing that I've from the beginning tried to do is always explain why.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, that is probably, to answer Alicia, that's probably the number one piece of advice that I would give is don't just give the recipe, give the principles of why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And honestly, I took, a page out of Andrew Kramer's book. That's who I wanted to model myself after when I made my first course. But
did you start out by saying, "Hey, what's up? Jake Bartlett here"?
I spared my audience, but But there was, even with Andrew, like I tried to identify things that bothered me a little bit. Like everybody knows Andrew. I mean, Andrew's the GOAT, but if I'm being honest, this might be a hot take. His
Uh-oh.
jokes can get a lot of long-winded, and I would find myself skipping. And I'm like, I don't want my audience to want to skip anything that I put out.
Right.
I want it to be 100% content. And I also didn't think I was funny, so I was like,
There
I'm
you
not
go.
going to try to be funny.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to get straight to the good stuff.
Yeah.
To what people came to this video for.
It's important to know your limitations.
Yes, exactly. Play to your strengths.
That's funny. That's funny. All right, so I would love to know, because it when we were talking earlier, it's amazing to me that you have been able to build this career just entirely based on education and being able to provide for a family and, you know, do stuff just solely off of the educational stuff. Because I know mograph.com, you know, we've released a few courses over the years, but it never got us to that point where we could do it full time, you know, or quit our jobs or something like that. There's always been this hindrance, like, oh, I've hit this threshold of making too much money, to now where, you know,
Yeah.
I would love to know how you're able to, like, have you noticed any downturns over the past year? Or I know during COVID, everyone was buying courses, but, and we
Yes.
saw a massive increase in our courses, but since then we haven't really seen a whole lot of, you know, traction with some of the courses we have. But it also could be that it hasn't been updated in years, you know?
Yeah. It's very interesting. COVID was incredibly great for online education. There was such a spike on Skillshare minutes watched over those couple of years. But when the bubble burst, it was bad for teachers at Skillshare. And from what I've heard, every other online learning platform. I was very fortunate to have already made the decision to start production on my first self-hosted course.
Nice.
Before that happened, thanks to Ben Marriott. He was the one who really
I love
encouraged me to
Ben.
do it. He's so fantastic
Yeah, he
and
is.
so generous with me. I basically copied what he does on his website for mine, and he was totally open with, like, yeah, here's how I set it up and the checkout, and I knew nothing about that.
Yeah, we had him
aspect.
speak at Camp Mograph Australia, and like he
Yeah.
was giving us hard numbers of, this
Yeah.
is what I make on YouTube. This is how much I make per click. If you watch this much, this is how much I make. And it was so eye-opening to be able to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's been such a gift to have people like Ben in this community. I feel like the motion design community is in general very giving and generous with that kind of thing. So I'm very happy about that. But for the longest time, Skillshare was my #1 source of income by a long shot,
Wow.
especially because of COVID. School of Motion, obviously I had fewer courses there, but they were also a big chunk of my yearly income. And freelance, I had narrowed it down to one client that had to basically drag me into doing the work. I was so hesitant because at that point I was actually kind of not freelancing. I was trying to shift into teaching full time. And they were like, no, please just come in and meet with us, because they were just down the road from where I live. And I was like, okay, but it was like a super corporate environment, very foreign to anything I had ever experienced. And like, I felt like I was dressing up and everyone there was in suits and ties. And I was like, wow, I did not dress up enough.
Yeah.
But it turned into the biggest, easiest client I had ever had in my freelance career, where they wanted me to, like, I got on payroll. They couldn't pay me any other way because they were such a big company.
Sure.
And they literally told me, bill us for every phone call, every email you write, like keep track of every minute. And they wanted me to bill them.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And they wanted 3D work. So I was like, well, I guess I'm using Cinema 4D, and I'm going to get the Max on 1 subscription and the Grayscale Gorilla Plus. And I in like 2 weeks, I kid you not, 2 weeks of work for them, I was able to upgrade my entire machine that I was working on to much nicer, like to be able to do GPU rendering. And I had that for almost 2 years. Before I finally said, all right, it's been really great and it's really hard for me to do this, but I want to teach. And that was the last freelance client that I had.
Wow.
Fortunately, I got an old friend from my first job in LA hooked up there and my brother in there as
Nice.
well before I left. So
That's great.
I got to hand it off. But yeah, that was a big like boost into me making that transition into relying more on myself and not on Skillshare or other platforms. Um, and since then, it's like YouTube for me, I didn't get to hear Ben's talk, so I don't know how much
Yeah.
he's making on YouTube, but I make very little in ad revenue. I have to get videos that do like 100,000 views to see any kind of real like impact in my monthly income from YouTube ads. At this point, it's really course sales.
Yeah.
And that has been extremely rewarding knowing that I can make something that people want to purchase,
Yeah.
and it's able to support my family. Um, Last October, I was kind of feeling like I don't know how this is gonna go in the next year, like
Yeah.
because I had launched one course and it had been up for almost a year, and it kind of sales tapered off.
Yeah.
It's like I got to figure something out here. I really don't want to go back to freelance, but I don't know what I'm gonna do. And at that time, I got a cold email from this guy named Kyle who said that he used to run growth marketing at Skillshare for 6 years.
Okay.
And that he was very familiar with me, even though
Uh-huh.
I probably didn't know who he was.
Uh-huh.
And that he has since left Skillshare and he's now working independently with online educators like myself.
Interesting.
And helping us just grow
Were you
our
like, this
business.
sounds like a red flag immediately?
It did. It absolutely did. So I had to vet him. I had to look him up, and sure enough, he was Skillshare marketing lead for 6 years.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, well, I saw the direct impact of what you did.
Yeah.
While I was, there during that whole COVID time, like the Skillshare marketing was absolutely everywhere. Every
Yeah.
YouTuber was sponsored by Skillshare. They had ads on Facebook. I mean, it was crazy. So I was like, okay, well, I'll hear you out. And he did an audit of all of my online stuff so he could see all my traffic sources, what I had set up, my analytics on YouTube. And then he gave me an 8-week plan of what he thought he could do for me over 8 weeks for this amount of dollars. And I was like, I honestly didn't know if I could afford it. Like it was a risk, but
Yeah.
I was pretty confident. Like I had to have a couple of long conversations with my wife about, do we want to do this?
Yeah.
But I was pretty confident based on his track record with Skillshare, and I was like, okay, let's do it. And he helped me put together the launch for my second course, which was Figma for Motion Designers. And in addition to that launch, he did all kinds of stuff, like help me put together email sequences for email marketing. That was something I had no
amazing.
experience with.
So,
But
sorry,
even-
is he marketing himself as a marketing company? Or like, was that?
Yes.
Okay, that's rad. That's super rad.
Yes. So his website is myblankspace.com, and the blank is spelled BLANC.
Okay. Blanc.
But yeah, he works with lots of former Skillshare teachers and just YouTubers and stuff, and he does fantastic work. With that course launch, it led into my first ever Black Friday sale,
Okay.
and that one course launch followed up by that sale. I made I want to say close to double what my first course launch was
Wow.
in the first month.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so I've been working with him ever since. And he just most recently helped me launch my third course, which was Rive for Motion Designers.
Yeah.
And that has been by far my most successful course launch to date. So he's given me so much confidence in my own content, but taken so much of the stuff that I don't enjoy doing off of my
Sure.
shoulders. Of,
Yeah.
Like knowing how to market stuff, when to send emails, what needs to be in those emails, how to run sales, what the landing pages of these courses should look like on my site. I mean, that is what he did at Skillshare.
Amazing.
So and YouTube. He's helping me plan YouTube content and figure out thumbnails and topics that will hopefully perform well. Like he's so knowledgeable in all that stuff that allows me to focus way more on what I enjoy, which is making the actual education content.
That's amazing. I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I was gonna ask, how as an educator do you stay relevant, when you're not necessarily working in studios and stuff like that, but mentioning the last two courses that you released,
Mm-hmm.
Rive for motion designers and Figma for motion designers, it's like those are very obviously ones that if you've been in After Effects at all, you have heard those names, you know?
Yes.
And it's like,
Yep.
how do you know, how do you stay fresh and know what your next course is going to be?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it's always what I'm most excited about.
Uh-huh.
If I'm excited about something, I'm almost positive that my audience is going to be excited to learn it.
Yeah.
So that's what's almost always guided what I'm going to teach next. When I was doing the Skillshare classes, it was usually like, oh, I figured out how to do something fun in After Effects. How can I make this into a course?
Yeah.
With Figma, it was actually, so this is a part of the career that we didn't talk about yet, but this was like 3 years ago now. I actually joined Battle Axe.
I was gonna
full
say,
time.
yeah, I remember
Yeah.
you joining them. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was the lead educator at Battle Axe for 3 years, and that's kind of how I got into Figma because Adam was developing Overlord support for Figma,
Which is
and
fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
I've used it for
compared to what
2
we had
jobs
before.
now, and it has
Yeah.
saved me so much.
Yeah. So Adam is actually the one that encouraged me to make a Figma class, and I was like, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense
Mm-hmm.
because at that point I had never used Figma.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I better learn this. And so I started messing around with it, and I was like, oh, this is actually really easy if you know Illustrator and After Effects.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, I'm going to just make the class that. I'm going to say, hey, if you know Illustrator, you know After Effects, this is going to be a piece of cake, and it's like just over 2 hours. And
Yeah.
I'm able to explain it. Like if you watch this course, you will have a complete grasp on how to use this app, and it was really great. People are still purchasing it. Like I think it's going over really well. Now that they expanded it into the like 4 extra apps, I would like to explore that a little bit more and
Yeah.
see like the sites and the illustration tools that they added. See if there could be a follow-up course. But yeah, Adam is the one who encouraged me to do that, and then further along, he discovered Rive, and he
Yeah.
was showing me some Rive stuff that he was starting to integrate into the site. And I was like, oh, I want to try that. And so I opened up Rive, and I was like, here, let me make an animation for one of our products. And over 3 different animations, I kind of learned progressively more complicated things inside of Rive. And it just worked out so perfectly because I was making content for the site. But then in my own learning path, I was able to turn that into 3 videos that went on YouTube that were sponsored by Rive, which was great.
Nice.
And then, I saw the response from those topics on my YouTube channel. I was like, well, I should probably make a Rive course.
Yeah.
That's kind of like Figma for motion designers, where I'm just like, if you know After Effects, you already know half of Rive.
Yeah.
So I'll get you up to speed there, and then I'll show you what's new in Rive and why it's valuable
Uh-huh.
and how it's kind of like making a lot of things possible online that weren't since Flash was around.
Yeah. That's interesting. Are you seeing any sort of like separation in our industry from like just motion design, especially with the advent of Figma, the advent of Rive, the advent of
Right.
Cinema 4D? Like, are you seeing a splintering at all?
It's hard for me to kind of gauge that because everything is secondhand, basically, that comes into my world since I'm not in the industry anymore. And we were talking before the call started. I am not very present online, so I'm not seeking out
Which is so
information
funny
that much.
because like I saw one of your videos or something and I was like, oh, I should hit up Jake about being on the show. Which you say you're not present online, but I see you all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in the sense of I post content,
Yes.
but I do not enjoy social media, so I don't go online
Right.
much.
Never
and
check
I'm
the
not like
comments.
keeping my finger on the pulse of the motion industry or anything like that. It's much more I'm in a Discord server with a group of friends that are all working as motion designers. And so I'm hearing secondhand like I just got this job or I'm looking for somebody who does Rive. So I get the sense of what some clients are looking for. But I do think there I don't know if split is the right term for this, but I think there's more and more clients looking for interactive design,
Sure.
and they're coming to motion designers for it.
Okay.
And those motion designers are getting a little caught off guard because they're like, well, I've always done it in After Effects.
Yeah.
So they're not sure how to charge for it. They're not sure what all is involved. They don't know what the delivery looks like. So that's what, like with my course and the couple of YouTube videos I've put out on Rive, I'm trying to just kind of educate After Effects users who,
Yeah.
like me, have been using it for decades. Just being like, it's really not that scary. And what's great about Rive is that when you're done, it's done. Like there is no handoff to somebody else who has to then like prep it for runtime.
Uh-huh.
You just export the file and there it is. And it can be put on a website, or it can be integrated into an app or into Unreal Engine or whatever. It's all the same file. And the motion designer is the one who is in control of all of it.
Yeah.
There's no, like, you can hand it off to a developer if it needs to have more intricate integration
Yeah.
with other like external code. But as far as like, you get to design what the interaction looks and feels like, and then you just hit export and it's done.
Interesting.
Just like
And
in Flash.
I
like, for
don't know
those
too
who
much
used
about
it.
Rive. So is it exporting animations, like say for example, like an animated GIF? It is this size by
Right.
this size, and you just like href equals, then put the
Right.
Rive code in there.
Yes. It's a little bit more complicated than that as
Sure.
far as the code goes.
Yeah.
It's not just like embedding in an image. There's more lines of code that has to specify a little bit more about the actual file, but the file type is .riv, so a riv file.
Okay.
And that contains everything about what you created. You just have to load it, like if you were to put it on a website, and you were doing it custom. So like on my website, I make a custom code block on a page element to get a Rive player to display.
Okay.
You have to load up a little bit of JavaScript that grabs the Rive runtime video player, and then you put in the code that references your file, and you say how you want it to display. So I have it set up so that it's responsive to the width of the window. You can have it be fixed. You can do all sorts of things with that. Fortunately, ChatGPT is very knowledgeable on Rive.
Interesting.
So if you are like me and you don't want to learn the ins and outs of how to display your player and every little intricate thing, you can just go to ChatGPT and say, here's my Riv file. I want it to display this way in plain English.
Yeah.
And it will give you the code. And it almost
Interesting.
always works. But yeah, as far as like an image, like Rive files actually can be responsive themselves. So the canvas width of that Rive player can change. And based on how you set it up in Rive, it can respond kind of like a website.
Yeah.
So you can do a lot with it, or you can just have it play like it's an animated GIF, and it's just incredibly low file size, really high refresh rate, and clean, crisp vector graphics.
Interesting. So do you spend your day-to-day just like playing around and like
Honestly,
learning new stuff,
Yeah, a lot of my time is playing around. Yes, especially over the past couple of years when I've gotten into Figma and Rive. Blender is something that I've been in and out of a lot. I've gotten into 3D printing lately, so I've been using Blender a lot more. But it's a lot of just playing around with stuff, seeing what's interesting, seeing if I can make that into a YouTube video. If it's a good enough idea, could I turn this into a course? But I kind of have a roadmap of courses. YouTube is much more spontaneous.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a list of videos that I feel like could be interesting, but every now and then, like an After Effects update in the beta will come out, and it's like, oh, I got to make a video on that. That's a really exciting feature. Like,
yes,
I'm
actually, that was the video that I saw. Just going through my algorithm and stuff. I was like, oh, Jake, I should have him on. Yeah. I like these new features.
Right. Yeah, those videos are hilarious too, because they're like, as far as the algorithm goes on YouTube, from what I can tell, it loves controversy. And there's nothing more controversial than After Effects new features, because people love to hate on Adobe so bad.
They do, yeah.
And the comments just come pouring in, hundreds of comments. I love it because they're all angry. And so I respond to all of them. And it's just feeding the algorithm. It's like, hey, this video is getting a ton of activity at the beginning. Let's push it out to more people.
Okay, here's your next video idea. And it's this is why After Effects is the best program ever, right? Just do that.
I will get more downvotes than any video I've ever posted if I say that.
Just to feed the anger. Just to feed the anger.
Yep. It's hilarious. Almost every time that I've done a beta features video, it's just performs so well. And it's because people are so negative, not because they love it.
Yeah. Well, I liked it. It's for me as someone who is in the software every day, but also, especially with studios and stuff, when you're working at a studio, they're very hesitant to update any software, so it's like you could be 2 to 3 versions behind and you may not know what's coming up. So seeing a video like that, like, while I may not comment, I sure as hell am gonna watch it because I need to know the stuff that's coming up and how great it is. Like the being able to expand your keyframe stuff and like sequence the keyframe. Oh, that's incredible. That is chef's kiss, Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my latest video, was the 25 After Effects secrets. And I, again, in that Discord server I'm part of with my friends, I just said, hey, here's a list of things that I think are little known in After Effects. Does anybody else have any more? And one of my friends, David Arbor, who's now on the After Effects team, he gave me 25 more.
Is he officially?
He is now on the After Effects team.
Oh, that's amazing.
So he's, I think quality engineer is his title.
Nice.
So yeah, it's awesome to have him on the inside.
Right.
He gets me a lot of insider just connections.
Yeah.
Not information. He's not telling me any NDAs.
Sure. Yeah.
Just to set the record straight. I don't know anything I shouldn't. But I have a very clear and quick way to be able to just bounce ideas off of people.
Yeah.
But I'm also I'm in a Slack account with the After Effects team. I've met them in person. We are friends. So I do have that benefit. But David I was friends with before he joined the team. But anyway, he gave me a list of his favorites. So I'm actually going to make a follow-up video of 25 more After Effects secrets.
There you go.
So there's just all these little hidden techniques that they're just so beneficial, especially for people who are brand new to the software.
Yeah.
But like you said, there are things that you didn't know. And there are things that I've learned from David that is like, how did I not know that you could stretch a layer?
Yeah.
Just like any other piece of footage. So yeah, I love making those videos.
Yeah, After Effects is one of those programs where even though I've been in it 20 years, there's still something. There's still something. And same with like cinema, for example. Like there's 5 different ways to do the exact same thing. It's like you choose the way that works best for you, Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Is there any software or programs or features or anything that just gets you really excited about this industry?
I think Rive is the best example of the most recent thing that's really got me excited. And that was something that I put in the couple of YouTube videos that I made, is that it made me excited in a way that I hadn't felt since I was learning After Effects for the first time. Because it was just opening so many new possibilities. I don't enjoy web design, but if I can make an interactive design that I could stick on my website, that's fun. And so I've found myself jumping into Rive to make just some fun text animations instead of just doing a static text banner on my website or something like that.
Yeah.
Or I recently started offering course bundles, and I was like, well, what if I made an interactive thing where they could choose which bundle, and then it shows you which classes you get and how much money that saves you. And it was I never would have done this in web.
Right.
Because I don't like code, and I don't even know how I would have done that. But if I can just open up Rive and work like I would in After Effects and then customize these interactions and the way that transitions happen, it's way more exciting for me.
How deep into expressions do you get in After Effects? And is there something similar, or do you have to go deep in Rive in code and stuff?
Right. Yeah, so I'm a pretty big After Effects expressions nerd.
Okay.
I definitely know people who are way more knowledgeable than me, but I really like a good expression rabbit hole. It's really therapeutic, I think, because you get to turn your creative brain off or design brain off in one sense and focus on a technical problem.
Yeah.
And it's way more just how can I make this work? And it might be way more work than it needs to be than just setting the keyframes manually. But I enjoy the challenge, and I like figuring things out. So I really do enjoy expressions in After Effects. Rive has something similar that's pretty new called data binding, which is there are ways to add in your own lines of code and formulas and things, but it's much more plug and play, where it's I need to make a converter that changes this this number value integer into an actual text string. And all you have to do is say, I need this converter to do that. You don't have to type anything. And it's like, now I have a converter and I just plug this value in here and then it turns it into a text string. So
Is Rive node based? Sorry, I don't know anything
No,
about
totally
Rive.
fine. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a hybrid. There are
Okay.
timelines with keyframes and layers. Like there's a hierarchy in that sense. But the environment that runs in for the interaction part is called the state machine, and that is node based in the sense that you would bring in timelines and then connect them together with nodes or as
Interesting.
nodes. And then from that point, you're designing transitions from state A to state B or state A to state
Okay.
C, depending on what the user is doing or how much time has passed or things like that.
Uh-huh. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And the data binding has opened up a world of possibilities on the back end, especially for like developers, giving them access to virtually any property in Rive, like you can with expressions in After Effects, where you can link any property from any layer to another thing. You can basically do that now using what's called data binding. And so that's the other thing about Rive is that it's still in beta.
Yeah.
It's been in beta for years, but because of that, and because they're a small team, and this is like modern architecture, they're pushing out updates every single week with new features. And that was actually something I was afraid of with making the Rive course, because I was like, am I gonna have to update this every 6 months? And sure enough, I let the Rive team know that I was almost ready to publish the class, and then my contact said, you might want to wait like 2 days because we're about to put out this new feature called data binding, and it completely changes the way that you work in Rive.
And
so
you're like, all right, scrap
okay.
it. Insert GIF of throwing away the computer. What?
Yes. So fortunately, it was just like a tagged on final lesson of the course.
That's nice. Okay.
So I didn't have to redo the whole thing or anything. But that is the really nice thing about having smaller teams like Spline, Rive, Figma, is that they're able to just put updates out so quickly and fix bugs so much more quickly, I feel.
Do you know how big their team is?
I don't off the top of my head, but I would imagine it's got to be pretty small. Like, this is coming out of nowhere, but my picture of Rive is like 20 people.
Okay. It's actually just one
I don't
guy
know
in the
that,
back
though.
room
Don't take my word
doing
on that.
everything. Feels like 20 people.
Yeah. But they're really responsive to the community. They have their own community on their site. They also have a Discord server. But yeah, they're really great about like, oh, we broke this thing, we'll have it fixed tomorrow kind of thing.
Question. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that the amount of features that they've put out in the last year, like they did a 2024 recap video that's a minute and a half long, and it's just astounding how many quality of life, but also just new features. Like they have a programmer that literally figured out how to do vector blurring. It's not.
Oh wow!
It's not a rasterized blur of vectors. It is literally vectors blurred, and they wrote up a whole page on how it works, and they show you how they figured it out. And they're working on like 2.5D, like in After Effects next. And I mean, they're just doing really, really amazing things with this app, and it runs in real time. That's the other thing. There's no rendering.
Yeah.
It's just hit play and then see how it works. No downtime.
How would you compare it to After Effects? Would you compare it like as a After Effects competitor? Or would you say this works really well in addition to, or hey, if I'm focusing on video, I'm only doing After Effects. If I'm focusing on web, I'm only focusing on Rive.
Yeah. Yes, so that's a great question. That's come up almost every time I've talked about Rive. It is not at all a competitor with After Effects, which is kind of probably a letdown to a lot of motion designers, because they see how fast it is and how you're able to work in real time and stuff. And then you say it's not a competitor to After Effects, and they're like, well, then why do I want to use it? And the reason it's not a competitor is because it was designed for interactivity, not for linear animation videos. Like After Effects is made to export videos. Rive is made to export these interactive players. And I think there's a lot of things that overlap because the Rive team are After Effects users. Like,
Okay.
it's very apparent when you open up Rive that so many features are like labeled the same thing or exist in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And they love Figma. The UI is laid out almost exactly the same as Figma. But I think it's like the perfect companion to Figma versus After Effects because, like I said, you're really creating two different products with these
Yeah.
two different apps. After Effects, you're going to create a presentation or a sizzle reel or, you know, a commercial or something that's going to be consumed by the viewer probably one
Yeah.
time.
And you're
And this
probably
interact
in After Effects you can do heavy compositing, color
Yes.
correction, lots of like crazy video effects and stuff. I'm
Exactly.
assuming in Rive it's more vector based.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So it does support raster,
Mhm.
and there's actually a very sophisticated distortion mesh tool with bones. So you can rig up characters just like you could. It's actually a lot more like Cinema 4D or Blender than it is like After Effects.
Interesting.
But you create a distortion mesh, you add bones, you rig it up with IK. Like it's totally doable, even with raster graphics. But it is like the strength, I think, is the incredibly fast vector rendering engine that they created. These files are kilobytes, not megabytes.
Wow.
And it plays back so incredibly fast. If you ever pull up a Rive animation in a web browser, it's probably going to play, like on my screen, it's I think a 60 hertz refresh rate. So it's probably playing back faster than my monitor can even display it.
Interesting.
Like that's how performant it is. There are no effects. So like there's not a curves that we can drop on
Sure.
to adjust the overall contrast. It's much more a design app like Illustrator or Figma. And then you're switching from design mode to animate mode when you're ready, and you
Okay.
start adding keyframes and timelines, or just the way that I find myself working in it the most lately. Like for example, a button is you need to create a few different states. You need an idle state.
Mm-hmm.
You need a state of the button when the mouse is over it, so
Yep.
the hover state.
Hover
You need a
state,
button
yeah.
click
Click, yeah.
state,
On
and then maybe
release
an
and-
active
yeah.
state.
Yep.
Yeah, so you create separate timelines for each one of those states.
I'm a Flash guy. I know ActionScript
exactly.
too. Come on.
Well, then you understand. That's what I felt like because I learned Flash before I learned After Effects.
Yeah,
actually.
same.
And so I was making some interactive stuff for my, I think it was at that point, GeoCities website.
Nice.
When I was in like junior high.
Yeah.
And I learned that in Flash, and then it died. And Rive comes in now, and it feels like a modern version of Flash.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you create those states, and then you plug all of those states into the state machine where you build the interactivity. So it's a very different end product.
Mm-hmm.
You can export Rive as PNG sequences if you needed to
Okay.
get it into After Effects and you wanted to put it into something with a little bit more compositing or into a video. So it's totally possible. But Rive's like mission is definitely interactivity, not linear videos that
Interesting.
just play back.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's say, so how is it compared to, say, only using like shape layers or something? You know,
Right.
Is it very similar to that?
It's very similar. So I mean, if you have any experience in Figma, it's literally like working in Figma with keyframes.
Interesting.
So it's way more performant than shape layers. What I love about Rive is that it gives you access to per point coordinates.
Okay.
So like if you go into edit a path, you can select a path and it will give you X, Y, the position for that point.
Oh, I like
And it
that.
will give you the length of each Bezier handle off of that. And it will give you the angle.
I like that.
So
Yeah.
like you can set keyframes for every single one of those values.
Wow.
Where in After Effects, it's like, I hope that line's straight. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Like, so it's got some really great vector editing tools. That being said, there are definitely limitations of what Rive is capable of. Like I said, there are no effects.
Yeah.
So you can't do compositing. I don't believe that it supports videos at this point, so you can't bring in a video reference or anything like
Right.
that. But the things that it's good at, it really excels in. Like the performance, the ease of being able to just design something and then immediately start making it move
Yeah.
and be interactive. It's just so fluid, and you can jump back and forth between the design and animate modes at any point. So Yeah, I guess my perspective on it is there are going to be clients that will eventually come to motion designers, like I said, and say, we really would like to do X. And
Yeah.
then that motion designer could say, yeah, I can do X, but have you thought about Y, which could be an interactive component that lives on their website or something like that. So maybe you take a
Interesting.
social media post,
Uh-huh.
but then you're like, well, what if we took this character that we put on your social media and we made it interact with the customer on your website? Even if
Ah.
it's as simple as
Yeah.
tracking the mouse around the screen, like that character's looking at the mouse cursor,
Yeah.
which is one of the projects in my course.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, just little touches like that I think as motion designers and freelancers, we could start kind of putting the bug in the ear of our clients. Like, look, there's this whole new thing where we can make interactivity that's extremely inexpensive in terms of file size and performance on devices. It works on any device. You know, work in your web browser on the desktop or on your phone just as well. And just being able to offer that one extra little bit into maybe a package deal that you're working with these clients. And I think they'll probably, I don't know, but I would imagine they would see it as an opportunity of, well, I've never really seen anything like this. That's really eye-catching. Like, I want to have that on my site or app or whatever it is.
Yeah. Awesome. Jake,
Yeah.
I feel like we could talk for like hours and hours and hours.
We could.
I
Is
need
it
to have
already
you
an hour?
back on. Let me know when you release your next course, and we'll do a deep dive into it.
Okay.
But
Great.
in the meantime, where can people find you online if they want to pick up one of your courses or they want to contact you or something like that?
Yeah. jakeinmotion.com is where you can find all of my course stuff. youtube.com/jakeinmotions, my YouTube, and everywhere on social media at jakeinmotion.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. And thanks everyone for joining. Make sure to follow us on all the socials, especially YouTube and Twitch. We've been doing our weekly MoGraph Hangouts. This week we'll, like I talked about earlier, we're going to have a lot of fun on that. Those are Thursday nights at 7:30 p.m. Central. I may change that to 8 p.m. Central. We're going to see. Because 7:30 is like right in the time when I'm putting my kids to bed, and it becomes very difficult. So maybe 8 o'clock. We might be changing it to then. And we've got a bunch of really fun guests coming up on the show in the next few weeks, so make sure and check that out. Also, if you haven't done it already, Jake just did, sign up for your very own MoGraph.com account. It's a one-stop shop for everything a motion designer needs. You can showcase your demo reel, projects you've worked on, post jobs, apply for jobs, sell your digital goods, find meetup groups, or start one of your own, and so much more is planned. I'm really excited about the stuff that we've got up and coming for the site, so make sure and sign up for there. So thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see everyone next week. In the meantime, I'm Matt and you are Jake, and we will see you later. Later, yo.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, where's my ending? Oh, I do this every week. I'm not ready for the
It's pretty good, I guess.